Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation. This is your Sunday supplement. This is all the latest news on your team, the greatest team in the world on the 4th of August. Well, a disappointing Saturday for Rangers. Obviously, we're going to hope that it is a better Sunday with hopefully Kilmarnock doing us a favour already. Can you believe we're asking for that already? There we go. Celtic obviously taking on Kilmarnock today. We'll have obviously news on that in the final word later. But obviously the focus in this podcast is on Rangers. We're going to talk a little bit of the Oscar Cortes injury and what Philippe Clement had to say about it. We're going to sort of presuppose what's going on with that. Also, Neil McCann has been having his say as regards Rangers as well. And casting doubts over Philippe Clement a little bit in terms of his over-dependency on a very young new signing in Conor Barron, who I think, without a shadow of a doubt, was the best player yesterday on the team, which, if you consider that he was a free signing from Aberdeen, that's, pretty much shows the rest of the team up for what they are. Very, very average. In terms of yesterday's game, Hearts, in terms of numbers, pretty much, in terms of shots, dominated the game. 18 shots to our 9, so, twice as many shots as us. Both teams had 3 on target. Obviously, Cyril Dessers missing all 3 of his chances. And we talked on the podcast last night about Cyril Dessers and the need for a clinical 9 and how, with Cyril Dessers up front, we won't win the league. Possession-wise, Rangers dominated possession, as we often do in the SPL, 63% to 37%, completing 445 passes to Hearts 262. Our pass accuracy was a lot higher at 80% than their 67%. And you can see the rest of the stats. Game came out as a 0-0. First half was more Hearts. Second half, we came more into the game. But, overall, it was a very unacceptable performance. And as I said on the podcast last night, I've read an awful lot of this. It's a good point. It's Hearts away. It's a decent, it's a hard place to go. They're a decent team, etc., etc. But I think a lot of fans are starting to lose sight of the fact that, as Rangers, we shouldn't be kind of thinking like this. And it's kind of a defeatist attitude and quite a modern attitude. Those of us, who've been supporting the team since 1986, 87, or, even longer. Those of us who've been supporting the team back since the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. Become very used to Rangers being a dominant force in Scottish football and not really kind of looking on teams and going, that's a bit tricky, isn't it? Ross County away, Hibs away, Dundee United are coming to town today. It's going to be a bit tricky. That's not how we should be thinking as a football club. And I'm sure you know what? I'll tell you this, I can guarantee that lot across the city don't think like that when it comes to these fixtures. So, we need to get out of this sort of, I don't know, for want of a better word, loser mentality and, focus on the fact that we are Rangers and we are, the biggest team in Scotland and teams should be fearing us and trying to install that fear into other teams when they take on Rangers and not giving them an easy ride. Now, one of the biggest stories that came out of yesterday's game was, of course, the injury to Oscar Cortes. Now, Cortes missed most of last season after signing on loan in January due to an injury. Again, a knee injury when his studs got caught in the turf. Cortez went down injured again in the second half with a supposed another knee injury. Not as a hamstring as many reported. It's concerning, isn't it? It is concerning. Second, obviously, now we don't know how serious it is. We don't know the extent of the injury, and we'll talk about what Philippe had to say in a moment. But, for a player that's allegedly going to cost us $4.5 million on an obligation to buy in the summer, it's worrying that he seems to be very injury prone. I'm not slagging him off. I'm not criticising the lad because he's clearly a very good footballer. We've seen in flashes just how good he is. But this injury situation with him is an extremely worrying one. Now, speaking post-match, Philippe Clement made the following comments about Oscar Cortes. He was asked, obviously, to the extent of Oscar's injury. He said, I cannot say at the moment. He fell down in a duel in a bad way in the first half and hurt his knee. But he said, and he was also tested by the doctor, that he was fine for the second half. With his first sprint, he felt too much pain, so we had to take him off. It's not the ideal thing, of course, because you lose a substitution moment in the second half. In this period, when players are less fresh and at the end of the game. So I think Big Phil was a little bit disappointed in the fact that, Oscar kind of said that he was okay to go, that he was ready to play. But I suppose, he passed the test with the doctor, and the doctor says he's good to go, then he's good to go. Big Phil went on to say this. He said, but it's experience for a young player also, knowing your body, what is pain, what you can do and what you cannot do. That's part of the journey of young players to get a better assessment around that. I think that's always obviously the weakness of players. They all think they can play. They all think they can just carry on. But, there's an element there where they've got to be a little bit more sensible as regards injuries. Now, we don't know how serious this injury is, but we certainly hope and pray that it's not a ridiculously long-term injury because, Cortez has just come back from that. If Oscar was to go down and be out for a number of weeks now, or even a number of months, this would be a huge loss to the club and would certainly add the recruitment of a further winger to the list. If Cortez goes down, it leaves us with Matondo, Wright and McCausland. With the best will in the world, you really do need to strengthen. I mean, there's been talk, obviously, I think Václav Černý as well. We've missed him off. I do apologise. But obviously, Černý, Wright, McCausland and Matondo, it doesn't really give you a lot of faith. And, you look at the left side. I know Černý can play left side, but he favours right. Matondo, obviously, then becomes a first choice, which I don't really see. I think, Rabbi is more a kind of an impact sub, someone who come off the bench when a team is tiring. He's not really a starter. So it's a big concern, this injury. And we certainly hope that Oscar is not seriously injured and it is not an extent where he's going to miss a number of months. But it seems crazy, doesn't it, to be talking about this only one game into the season, when we were kind of told and promised that the whole injury situation around the club would change, that we wouldn't be facing another season where key players go down. Now, I know that Raskin's injury obviously was not his fault. It was an awful tackle by an Ajax player, but this one obviously is an injury that, obviously is, impact related, but it's kind of also worsened by the players, the player going out and playing and the medical staff kind of misdiagnosing it to some extent. We were told the medical staff had been improved. We were told the medical staff, obviously, were working to Big Phil's plan, but there's elements already, with this injury, the injury to Dujon, hopefully, Nicholas will be back within the 5 to 6 weeks that was advertised, but you automatically start to get those concerns over injuries and those concerns over the medical staff already this season, which is not positive at all, not how you want to be thinking. We really cannot go through another season with a whole load of players missing and a whole load of players getting injured again. It's just not possible, and it certainly cost us last season. So obviously, we wish Oscar all the very best. We wish him a rapid return, and hope that he gets whatever it is. It's not desperate. It's not terrible, is it? This is a big one for me. Now, the manager did cause some controversy post game with some comments around John Lundstrom. Obviously, John Lundstrom left the club in the summer to head to Turkey, to Trabzonspor, to join up with former teammate Borna Barisic. Speaking post game, Philippe Clement was kind of ruining the departure of John Lundstrom and said that they missed his leadership and they missed his influence in midfield. I mean, that does slightly worry me about guys. I back Philippe Clement 100%. I think that he needs to be given time, and I think he's a good manager. But when he's talking about John Lundstrom, a player that slowed the game down, a player that was ostensibly very negative, a player that really did only have 2 passes on him, a sideways pass and a backwards pass, which is not what you want. You don't want passive passing, if that makes sense. It's worrying for Big Phil to be saying that. Some former Rangers players have also criticised this as well. One ex-Rangers player commented that it's a ridiculous statement to come out with. It really is. Sometimes I wonder about the Rangers manager. I know the Rangers fans absolutely love him. They're delighted he signed a new deal, but you can say his 4-year contract really isn't worth anything. Well, if they pay him off, it's worth a few million quid. He's got to win games. I don't think Rangers fans are impressed by what's happening on the pitch. I think the manager's a good, strong character, but like the Rangers fans, show me something else apart from playing just a few long, hopeful balls. So, it was already, his style is kind of already being criticised, and it's not just ex-players. It's also, other fan media, other fan podcasts, other analysts, it's kind of saying what style is there, and this long ball football is poor. When Dessers obviously, can't trap a ball and can't beat a man in the air, it doesn't work. So the criticism is there. Now, I don't often agree with Celtic players. I really don't, or former Celtic players, but former Celtic fullback Mark Wilson, I thought, made a very good point on Sky, on the Clyde Super Scoreboard, when he said, I think if you're a player like Diamande or Barron in that central midfield and you think you've done okay today, then you hear those comments from your manager saying that they missed a player in your position. I wouldn't like that. I think, as much as obviously, the guy's ex-Celtic and we kind of take what he says with a pinch of salt, He's kind of right, though. You shouldn't be coming out and saying, oh, we missed this player. And you kind of would sit there if you were Barron and Diamande and say, well, you're saying I'm not good enough. You're saying that he's better than me. And that's not going to do much for the confidence, is it, of Barron and Diamande, that you're talking, about someone that you've kind of lost. It's like talking about your ex to your present girlfriend or your present wife. It doesn't go down very well, does it? It's not something you do if you want to stick with that person for, a long period of time. So strange remarks. And I think we all know that Lundstrom was the player that he wanted to resign. I think the vast majority of us, would have said no chance. He's not very good. He's not up to it. He's too streaky, etc., etc. But look, that's moved on, and let's hopefully that Phil can get over his John Lundstrom dependency. Now, former Rangers player and former Hearts player Neil McCann has also been talking post this game against Hearts. And he kind of has tried to identify what was wrong with Rangers in this game. This is what he said. He said that, he said in his post-match comments, there are elements of the team that are still looking soft. Philippe Clement has been talking about needing to be better in duels, and I can only imagine that's about the two centre-backs dealing with the pace in behind. He also talked about the not playing with risk and bravery and being demanding to get the get the ball off people. That fell to the young Connor Barron starting his first game in the Premiership for Rangers. I don't think anyone would have expected Connor to come into this Rangers team and be the main protagonist to start attacks. There is a lot of stuff that is not working for me with Rangers. It is early, but they have not won a pre-season game and have thrown away 2 points today. They need to get things into traction and very quick. Now, interesting comments from Neil McCann, and I think he's right. There was an awful lot kind of was dependent on Connor Barron being the starter, being the guy who kind of got things underway, and that's putting a lot of pressure on a player who's only just joined the club and a player with a reasonably limited amount of experience. I think it goes back to what we were talking about on the podcast last night about needing a six. We really do need to go out and get someone who can orchestrate play, who can be the conductor from the back, who can kind of be the guy who smashes things up, turns it over, and gets attacks going and gets attacks started. Someone who can really focus the team's attention. Now, I think in time that's probably something Connor Barron can do, but it's an awful lot to ask of such a young player. I think that personally, my preference would be to go for some experienced 10. We did obviously go after Joanne Jordan, Kenny McLean. So there's a desire there to get an experienced 10. But I think that's a crucial thing that Rangers are missing. Someone to really rule the roost in the midfielder. Barry Ferguson-esque type of player is really missing from this team. Someone with a bit of spirit, a bit of fight, a bit of just grit and determination. He's really kind of missing. And look, nothing against Connor Barron. I thought Connor was excellent yesterday. Probably the best player on the pitch. Quite telling, really, wasn't it? That, out of the whole of that team that played yesterday, he was the only new signing that got a start. And the rest of the team were essentially last season's losers. So, look, Barron did great. Got nothing against Connor. But, Neil McCann's right in what he says. He really is. And there's an awful lot needs to improve for this team. And, I get the transfer window doesn't close to the 30th of August. We've got 27 days, 25 days, something like that left until the window closes. Now, personally speaking, I think Rangers need the following things. I think a number 6 and an experienced number 6 is something we certainly need. Now, I know people would like more than one player in these positions, but, with the transfer window winding down, with getting players out to get players in, with, obviously finding money to pay for these players, I think this is going to take more than just one window. So we do need an experienced 6, like I said, someone to really quarterback the team, lead the team, orchestrate the team, be the driving force, be the, that Barry Ferguson type. We need a number 9, a real number 9, a goal-scoring number 9, someone to put the ball in the back of the net on a regular basis. I'm not saying that Shankland, Miovski, just someone out there who can come in and be more clinical. Again, we saw yesterday, Dessers missed 3 chances. He takes one of those, we win the game. It's something you've got to do. When you're playing badly, when you're scrapping and fighting, you need someone to take those chances. Dessers, you cannot rely on him. I think we need a centre midfielder. You look at the Euro squad, you see how, light that area is. Now, whether that's a 10 or another 8, we do need someone in there. We need a right back because Tav is just awful. The guy was just shocking again yesterday. I think I gave him 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10 on the ratings. 4 if I was being generous, I think, but he was piss poor. We need a centre back to play alongside Proper. I mean, I think Big Leon can fill in there, and I think in this maybe even be the centre back has to wait till January. But that's the shopping list as it stands, and that's just a minor shopping list. I think there's a whole load of other players that we could do with signing beyond that. Well, guys, look, it wasn't the ideal start to the season yesterday, and hopefully, in time, we'll grow. We'll start to see a pattern of play, pattern of attacking play, some style. I suppose the positives we can take from yesterday: Connor Barron did very well. Jack Butland seemed to be back on form. No one's beaten Hearts at home since December. That was us. That's, I suppose, kind of clutching at straws a little bit. But, you try and looking for the bit of the positive in this. Not the start we wanted, but we'll go again. We will. We are Rangers. Guys, thank you so much for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. As always, on the way out, please smash that like and help the channel to keep on growing. Guys, as always remember, please, never forget, we are the people.